So our next speaker is Hannah Smith, who is a graduate of Montana State University and holds a Bachelor of Arts in History and Asian Studies. She is currently pursuing a Master's of Science in Archival Studies at the University of Texas at Austin. Her primary areas of interest are history of science and women's medicine. Please join me to welcome Hannah.
Thank you to the hosts of the conference and all of our fellow presenters. What is the first thing that you do as a guest in someone's home? Cultures differ in greetings and gift-giving tradition, but one thing unites us: the creeping urge to post through your host's medicine cabinet. In some ways, this is the most intimate part of someone's home, and it offers insight into the most embarrassing and truthful realities of inhabiting a human body. So, whether you shake hands or bow, remove your shoes or keep them on, let's look through the medicine cabinet of the Meiwa Mercantile together and get a better understanding of early Chinese migrants in Butte, Montana. In the fall of 2023, a team of 14 people visited Butte, Montana to assist in a translation effort for the Meiwa Society, which is housed in the former Watchung Mercantile and adjoining Meiwa Noodle Parlor in downtown Butte. By the 1970s, the Mercantile and associated buildings had been abandoned as Butte dwindled and declined, but in Montana's dry and cold climate, the items in the building were preserved without a modern HVAC system or protection from the sun. The items in the building were left intact with the Chinese characters legible where they had been painted on packages, boards, and signposts. Now we have a veritable wellspring of knowledge and a potential font of learning, but it was restricted by one thing. Montana does not have a lot of Chinese speakers. So in the fall of 2023, the Montana State Chinese Culture Club had been awarded a seed grant by Montana State to go to Butte and assist the Meiwa Society in the translation effort. Our project was not for our own research, but to offer others the opportunity to do so by contributing to the translation of the goods in the Meiwa. The group of students, faculty, community members, and professors who made the trip from Bozeman to Butte photographed herbs, medicines, crates, tea, food, signs, books, and miscellany, categorized them, and began the work of translation. Over the course of 5 months, Dr. Hua Li, myself, and Jacob Rivers researched and translated hundreds of objects. You may notice that Jacob's name is attached to this presentation, but he moved to Japan. So today you just get me. While incredibly work-intensive, our hours spent fine-tuning translations led us to the insight that I'll be sharing a little bit of today. Montana history and Chinese history became intertwined as this nation of immigrants came together, and comes together today to continue weaving the rich tapestry of America. In some ways, their footprints are noticeable. To this day, Butte is home to one of the oldest Chinese restaurants in the United States. The Mount Moriah Cemetery bears headstones with Chinese names, and the Watchung Mercantile and Meiwa Noodle Company stand as proud as they did at the turn of the 20th century. Their other impact is staggering, but often forgotten. The Chinese of Butte ensured that the town continued to function in its heyday, performing labor that allowed daily life to carry on, such as laundering and cooking. Though many of the workers did not settle in Montana, or at least had intentions of returning to Taishan County, China, while they were here, they made a mark on Montana history, changing not only what it means to be a Montanan, but did so with the insurmountable pressure of a racist government and often prejudiced and violent neighbors. Today I wish to honor their sacrifice by remembering how they made Butte their own and made America what it is today. The Mercantile holds within it everyday objects: herbs, tea, foodstuffs, clothing, Buddhist joss papers to burn at funerals. In this we see the food they were raised on and shared with their new community through the Meiwa Noodle Parlor. They got sick and they healed using remedies from their old home and their new home. They performed religious ceremonies and they buried their dead. Some items inadvertently gave us insight into what China was like at the time, such as the rice noodle advertisement, which I will read for you in a moment. This advertisement bids that its esteemed customers be discerning of trademarks, given that the commercial climate in China at the time was very much one of copycatting. The advertisement appeals to the vanity of the customer by insinuating that they are far too discerning to fall for the emulators, and makes the product sound truly enticing. For our team, the ads were memorable, so sincere and charming in their language that revisiting them today feels like a necessity. Without further ado, Shahe rice noodle, produced in Eastern Canton, has long been famous both inside and outside of China. However, only the people nearby have been able to enjoy it. Those who live afar miss it as if they were missing out on trout in the autumn. We have empathy. Though specialized in bead curd skin, our company also makes Shahe rice noodle so that people could have a taste of their hometown and share the rich taste to enjoy those who love it. To enjoy with those who love it, maybe. We specifically invited qualified workers and established rice noodle factories in the city and country to manufacture. We fetched water from the White Cloud Dragon Spring, diligently conducted research, and made the dry powder, which has a smooth and clean taste. In order to make the beautiful flavor long-lasting, we pack them in colorful boxes, which are both clean and pleasing to the eye. It is not only convenient to carry, but prevents noodles from getting rotten. The shelf life is 1 week. Tea houses and restaurants should have it stocked from time to time. It can also be a side dish at home or a snack when traveling. It can be cooked with either vegetables or with meat. It is all at your own convenience. It is suitable either to make soup or stir fry with oil, as the customers prefer. The person with a discerning taste will know to choose our product. If you choose us, please recognize our trademark so that you won't be misled. Our translation efforts meant that it was very important for us not only to make these translations understandable for the everyday visitor of the Meiwa, but that it also honors the original meaning in Chinese. We also wish to keep the language that we used era appropriate as opposed to using modern vernacular. My collaborator Jacob once insisted that one of the translations had to sound like an advertisement you might have heard at a Yankees game in the 20s. This became especially pertinent when we were translating the names of herbs. We quickly decided that we should be including the common uses for the herbs as well, which led us to an even greater challenge: understanding traditional Chinese medicine and making those terms digestible and comprehensible for the general American public. Chinese words like qi that do not have an English equivalent, and phrases like cools body heat or nourishes kidneys, which contains words that we are familiar with, but require a little more explanation within the context of traditional Chinese medicine. We had to question whether familiar words like heat, what they meant, and to create a need to clarify when it was body heat, as in to create balance between hot and cold within the body, or a fever being treated. Oftentimes we would be heard saying things like, okay, but what does that mean in this context? Through question asking and discussion with Dr. Li, we prioritized demystifying Chinese medicine without sacrificing the cultural integrity of the language. Chinese medicine differs from Western medicine in a few distinct ways. While the Chinese process looks to the flow of energy through words like heat, cool, blockage, and process, Western medicine takes a bit of a more tangible approach. This is due to the fact that the body has been historically viewed as sacred in most cultures, meaning that to cut it open is unthinkable. In Confucian societies, this ties back to filial piety and the concept that your body was a gift from your ancestors and parents, and that to mark it or mar it is simply not an option. In the West, dissection was often taboo, but more due to various religious views on corpses and the soul rather than any one specific edict. It is also a staple of Western science that the Catholic Church was one of the biggest proponents of scientific understanding of the world because it gave insight to God's creation And as such, things like dissection and surgery were taboo, not because cutting the body open was taboo, but because death itself is a taboo. As a result, the concept of filial piety and disrespecting your body because it was given to you by your predecessors prevents things like surgery, which at this point was becoming almost distressingly common in the United States. Around the turn of the century, the primary method of treatment for many maladies in the Old West was simply to remove the area through amputation. Imagine that you are in a country whose language you may speak only snippets of, and your leg has really been hurting. You got a cut, and it's infected. Do you A, trust the man with the bone saw? Or do you use the medicine that you were raised taking? TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, offers solutions to a great variety of maladies, from the common to the rare, with shipments to and from mainland and Hong Kong. The herbs used to create medicines were amply available. Often Chinese medicine is rather grossly reduced to acupuncture and opium. Both of these practices have inspired Western counterparts, like dry needling, which uses sterile needles to alleviate pain and tension through myofascial trigger points, which is clearly descended from acupuncture. And of course, the use of opioids for pain management. Every Olympic cycle, it would seem that people are reintroduced to cupping, a method of inflammation reduction that uses cups to draw blood to an affected area and increase circulation to assist in healing. Today, this is often within a sports medicine context, and it creates dark bruises on the areas which the cups were applied. But historically, it was used in Asia and the Middle East and brought to the United States by its practitioners. Along the same vein, we find Tai Chi, which uses slow, flowing body movements and a focus on breath to create inner calm and gentle stretching and non-strenuous exercise. It was our sincerest hope, by assisting the Meiwa and assisting students, exposing students to this crucial piece of history, that we could begin the heavy work of understanding and begin to undo racist, xenophobic stereotypes, not only of early Chinese migrants, but of Chinese and East Asians today. In a world ravaged by a pandemic, people began pointing fingers, eager to place the blame on those who had caused the chaos and death that we were witnessing in real time. As it came to light that the illness had originated in Wuhan, China, humans began to show their ugliest sides. Driven by fear and racism, anti-Asian sentiment and hate crimes rose drastically. As we pawed through wrapped packages of tea and herbs, I was struck by the similarities of living in 2023 and 1860. In both centuries, if I were to be asked, "Where are you from?" I could respond, "Montana," and not get any further questions. In both centuries, if you ask an Asian American person their origins, Montana would not suffice. Many people would continue to question. And this, an implication. Asian Americans are not Americans. Through many civil rights battles, Asian immigrants and their children were able to gain rights to citizenship, voting, and marriage. And today, being a white American and an Asian American is very nearly identical on paper. But a closer look shows that in Los Angeles County, hate crimes rose 115% during the outbreak of COVID. That countless Americans across the United States have had anti-Asian rhetoric spewed in their faces and online. So what does an American look like? And who gets to call themselves a Montanan?